Hello, today is Pentecost Sunday, May the 28th, and we're going to start from Acts 2, chapter 2, and Pentecost Sunday. Pentecost is not. There was already a Pentecost before today in the Old Testament. So this memorial of the descent of the Holy Spirit is kept on Pentecost, on that Pentecost. When the time for Pentecost was fulfilled, they were all in one place together. That's the apostles, the disciples, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary, all in one place. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind, and it filled the entire house in which they were. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak in different tongues as the Spirit enabled them to proclaim. So the disciples, and no matter male or female, all spoke in different tongues. And why would they speak in different tongues? And what are they doing? So here we know, now they were devout Jews from every nation under heaven staying in Jerusalem. At this sound, they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused because each one heard them speaking in his own language. That means they were speaking in different languages, and the people gathered outside. They were hearing their own, hearing them speaking in their own language. They were astounded and in amazement, and they asked, "Are not all these people who are speaking Galileans?" That means the Galileans, they don't know how to speak their language, but they were speaking their language. So how does each of us hear them in his native language? We are Parthians, Medes, Elamites, inhabitants of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the districts of Libya near Cyrene, as well as travelers from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs, yet we hear them speaking in our own tongues of the mighty acts of God. So they were preaching about God, but the people outside, gathered outside from different places, heard their own language from the Galileans, from the disciples, apostles. Yeah. So they were amazed at that. But they heard them speaking about God. So that would be the Acts of the Apostles leading us into today's feast, the descent of the Holy Spirit, Pentecost Sunday. And in the second reading is from 1 Corinthians. And because it is a letter written to the community in Corinthians. That's why it's called Corinthians. And there are two letters. And this is the first letter, so it's 1. The second letter is 2. So 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Brothers and sisters, addressing the community in Corinthians. No one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. So today is the feast of the Holy Spirit, descent of the Holy Spirit. And with the Holy Spirit, we can call Jesus Lord. If not, we will not be able to do so. So the Holy Spirit has helped us to address Jesus as Lord. There are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different forms of service, but the same Lord. There are different workings, but the same God who produces all of them in everyone. So there are different gifts, different forms of service, different workings, but the same Spirit, same Christ, same God. So same God the Father. So different things. So there are many different things, but one God, one Father, one Christ, one Spirit. Many different things, but a unity, a union in God. So to each individual, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for some benefit. And a body is one, though it has many parts. And all the parts of the body, though many, are one body. So also Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slaves or free persons, and we were all given to drink of one Spirit. So many kinds of things, many parts, but all one, a unity. And finally we come to the Gospel, a Gospel of John. And here Jesus would mention the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit comes not only on Pentecost Sunday, but it comes at different times, and the Holy Spirit comes at different times. And today in St. John's Gospel, we see Jesus bestowing the Spirit to the apostles. But first of all, He appeared to them. On the evening of the first day of the week, when the doors were locked where the disciples were, for fear of the Jews, they had crucified Christ, and the apostles and disciples did not know what to do. So they locked themselves up in a room, and they were afraid that the Jews would come after them and catch them and harm them. So they locked all the doors and windows. But Jesus, who had been crucified and has risen from the dead, appeared to them. And he came and stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." When he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side, and his disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. So the risen Lord appeared to them and showed them his wounds, that he was the crucified Christ, and he is risen now, and he appeared to them to certify that he has risen from the dead. But he also said something else, Jesus. Jesus said to them a second time, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." So, and when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven, and whose sins you retain are retained." Here, Jesus breathed on them. So the Holy Spirit is breath. A breath can represent the Spirit. So Jesus breathed on them, breathed the Holy Spirit into them, unto them, and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven them." So here he gave the apostles the power to forgive sins through the Holy Spirit. And the power is a full power. So Jesus said, "Whose sins you retain are retained." But this doesn't mean that the apostles can do as they like. They have to do it according to the truth. The main thing is to forgive sins. And here Jesus established the sacrament of penance and confession. So here is another angle of the Holy Spirit and the workings of the Spirit and the coming of the Spirit. So here Jesus, the Gospel of John gave another angle for us to consider, and to commemorate the descent of the Holy Spirit, Jesus gave us this angle to consider. So we have to consider all the angles, and when we consider the Trinity Sunday, three persons in one God, we will speak more about that. So God bless.